Welcome back. Happy February. Happy Valentine's Day. I am so excited to be here with you guys today for another chapter of The Nature of Forces by Genevieve Gravel. That's me. If you're new here, my name is Genevieve Gravel. My friends call me Gigi, and I tell campfire stories. I am currently working on The Nature of Forces. We're going into chapter 24 right now, and I post on the first Friday of every month, so make sure to hit that subscription button if you are into campfire stories, ghosts, witches, vampires, all things spooky or paranormal, fantasy fiction, because I come to you with original content on a regular basis. As far as writing goes, I am a hobbyist. I am not a professional, but you can find drafts of my work on Amazon. I will link that down below in the description. So let's get into it. So we are picking up on chapter 24. I am going to skip over a lot of this chapter because I don't think it's appropriate. So if you want to know what happens, and mind you, there's a big trigger warning. I guess you have to buy the book. Sorry, I hate to be that way. Like, I really just want to tell stories. But I'm going to skip much of this chapter because I do think it's incredibly inappropriate to be reading on the internet. I will pick up, though, halfway through, so I'm just going to give you a little backstory. So Amber leaves the coven and goes to town because, you know, she likes guys and she wants to meet some guys, and she's not very nice with them, and enchants them and bewitches them and makes them do things that they should not be doing. And she did so with a very new character. His name is Kahai. And just to let you know, when I was writing Kahai, when I was doing his character development and his backstory and everything, I didn't know it then, but he definitely became one of my most favorite characters. I absolutely adore this person, this fictional person. Isn't that crazy how you can fall in love with someone that doesn't exist? But he's definitely victimized by Amber, and together they do some bad things to some other people. And so I'm going to pick up where the bad things that Amber has been enchanting him to do are coming to light within Alexandria, within the town. And of course, Heidi is seeing all of this with her gift of sight. Not really, she still doesn't really understand that it's a gift of sight. She thinks she's just going crazy and seeing things in her mind, or imagining these crazy things, these crazy scenarios. So she's viewing this through her mind's eye. And so, like I said, Kahai is bad deeds have been found out. So Kahai pleads, "No, it was the witch. No, I would not. I would never. I've been bewitched." But no one listens to him. Even if they could believe such a ridiculous story, not one of them would care. It is atrocious. It was atrocious what had... I can't read. That's okay. Nobody watches this anyway. Except for you 25 subscribers. Thank you so much for subscribing. I love you. You were wonderful and fabulous, and so I'm going to continue to read for you. So it was atrocious what he had been accused of, and Kahai must be punished harshly and swiftly. Kahai pled as he was dragged violently and thrown mercilessly into this pit of despair. From far below, he could see the faces of the men of Alexandria as they took turns spitting and urinating on him. The noise quieted. The noise quieted as the men left, and Kahai was left alone in the dark black of night. He was scraped up and bleeding, scared and alone, and he began sinking into the pile of bone and rotting flesh. The foul stench made him retch. and he dug his fingers into the soil, entombing him, trying to stay on the surface of decaying flesh and human bone. Kahai tried as he may to remain calm. However, his heart beat quickly and his breath failed him. The world seemed to spin around him and his limbs began to shake. He searched by the dying fire of a torch one of the angry mob's men had thrown into the tomb, and Kahai pulled at the bone, and it slid from a pile with a squish, and a blob of rotten flesh fell, landing on Kahai's boot. Kahai jammed the bone into the soil, continuing to pull bones with one free hand while grasping it to the sunken bone for support. He jabs the bone into the soft soil, lining the tomb. One after another, he slowly climbed up, building himself a stairway of bones and skulls, and he occasionally... That's a lot of bone. Like, I really need to work on the repetitiveness. That's too repetitive. I'm going to make a note. Just so you know, what is available and what I do read from is a draft. It is published and available for sale for copyrights and ISBN purposes, but it will be taken down when I'm done reading this and rewritten. So that's why I make notes and whatnot to myself. So I'm kind of bringing you guys along on my journey of my writing process as I find myself as a writer. Like I said, I'm a hobbyist. I'm not a professional. Okay, so he climbed back up to find his way out. As he neared the top, he was forced to pull out the same bone and jab it above him using nothing but grip strength and determination. And after several days, covered in the nastiest foul anyone could imagine, he emerged from the desolate tomb into the dead of night. He climbed to solid ground and lied on his back, and he tried to catch his breath. It took him a long while. He fought the urge to sleep where he lay, but he knew he must flee, lest he be found and forced back down into the pit of despair. He tried to run, but lacked the strength. He walked slowly with a limp and fell until he fell and crawled until he fell and crawled. See, that sounds like shit. He was moving as fast as he could, but still at a snail's pace. Kahai headed away from his home of Alexandria. This is the last dream of Kahai I had for many months. It's the last dream I would have for some time. The quiet sleep is delicious. It allows for me to focus on my life here in the deep wood under my own spell of protection. I often look to my sister for company, but she's filled with anger towards me. She often speaks of people and a community away from the isolation where she lives. I often wonder if she too has dreams, and if they resemble my dreams of Alexandria and the Coven and the vampire. I never ask her, though. That would require a rational and calm conversation. All we do is fight. And as quickly as my dreams had left, they returned, and this time Kahai neared my home, and he was met by swarms of bugs that ate at his flesh and snakes that slithered down trees by the dozens. The light flickered at times, confusing him and causing him to lose his direction. The wind howled loudly and knocked him to his knees, forcing him to turn around and seek shelter. With no place to go, no place to settle, no place to call home, he wandered through the jungle toward the single light from the sky that hit the ground. It's the light that protects my home. And towards the safety only my sister and I enjoy. I must admit, I think these dreams must come from my desire to be with a man. I've never met a man. I've only seen depictions in charcoal that my mother had drawn. In truth, I'd never met anyone, lest my sister and long ago gone mother. My sister talks of men and sex, and she desires for these experiences with all her soul. I know she must have dreamt the same as me. I just don't know how or why, and I wish my mother were here. She may know these dreams, why they come to me, and what to make of them. I dream of him more often than any other person or place I have dreamt of prior. It's almost nightly. His face appears before me now, and I feel sad for him. How lonely he must be out there all alone, fighting for his life, digging for water and hunting small game with his bare hands. Swarms of insects that befall him become his main dish. Yet, though it remains calm simply turning the other way till the winds begin to howl and the light begins to flicker unnaturally, though he remains calm, simply turning the other way when the winds begin to howl and the light begins to flicker unnaturally. He was not one to stay in place very long. He wandered the woods, setting up a camp only to leave it within a few days to find another. He was a butcher in his past life, and he had climbed the dark mountain to its peak and trapped deer and bear for all the people who cast him out. He learned to live on the land alone, and he preferred it that way. Time and again, the fear and loneliness would take him, and he cried for hours. Ever so curious and highly intelligent, Kahai possessed a strong connection to Mother Nature. I think he understood the unnatural events of weather, the playing of light and the swarms of insects and serpents. They must have come from a spirit of the dead with a lot of power, not from Mother Nature herself. And as a child he had heard of the witches and the ancient myths, and now he believed. The voices and the ancient picturesque texts, the spells of the ancient tongues, somehow they must be true. Why does this one manifest itself into a malevolent manner when he nears the light from the falling sky? What is it protecting, and why? The light tricks begin again, and this time turning everything from black to white and black to white, and all the color drains from the surrounding. And then she appears, in full color, her flowing red hair, her fluffy dress of red, her bright red eyes and heaping bosom, and he was entranced by a vision of loveliness. Not at all the image of evil. She looked ethereal, and Liliana whispered in the wind. And now we are going to go ahead and jump into chapter 25, because I cut out half of chapter 24. Okay, so chapter 25. My sister is fed up with me in our life of solitude in the wood. She reminds me of this with every waking moment. We can't be the only ones, Hazel screamed at me. There must be more people. I have to find him. You can't expect me to stay here with you any longer. It's been over 70 years since Mama died. I need to move on. Please, please, I pled with my sister, dropping to my knees. Tears were streaming down my face with such fury that I could hardly see my sister pacing before me. Mucus was pouring from my nose, and I cried in complete desperation. Please don't go. Don't leave, I spit, crying out for the only person left in my world. Don't go. I try to catch my breath through frantic tears. Don't go. I can't stay. I will surely die here, Hazel tried to explain. This is our home. How can you leave? How can you even think it? I retorted. This is our mother's home, and she's gone, and there's nothing left for me here, she spat. She's still here. Her spirit's still here. I won't go. I won't go. I won't leave her, I cried. No, Heidi, you are so naive. Mama is dead, and she's been dead for a long time, and you need to accept it and move on, Hazel scolded me. This is my home. How can I leave? How can you ask such a thing of me? I asked. I didn't ask you to. Hazel turned without a goodbye and walked into the night. I scrambled to my feet. My legs were weak and my vision was blurred. Unable to open the door, my hands kept slipping on the knobs. I could not breathe. My tears were hot. I felt trapped. I am trapped. I'm scared. I've never been alone. Please don't leave me. I love you. I need you. I don't want to live without you, I cried to no one at all. My hands went to grasp the doorknob, and pushed the door open. And I ran out after Hazel. However, she was gone. Scanning the dark jungle, all I could see before me was black, and I was frantic, and I ran out of our spell of protection into the dying forest, and the blackened treetops blended into the gray of the night sky as the world began to spin, and my heart was pounding, and I couldn't catch my breath, and everything turned white as I fell to the ground, unable to breathe. Hazel left behind the only home and the only person she had ever known for the hope of the unknown. Hazel left me, and ash filled her lungs as she parted from the life-giving spell of protection. She began to cough. Turning back was no option. She ripped the hem of her dress and tied it to her face, covering her mouth and nose. Hazel heard my screams in the background. She looked back for just a moment, only to see if I was following. Hazel persisted with the speed and determination of a lion on the prowl. Her prey is that of her dreams. She's chasing them, a life of substance, a life of luxury, a life filled with adoring people. As a botanist and an herbalist, she found survival in the woods easy enough. She was annoyed with only the uncleanliness of it all. Using her long coat as a sleeping bag, she rested each night, and she looked forward to every new day with excitement of her life to come. She followed the path of the dried riverbed. She had read the map left long ago many times, and she recognized the tree, the great Ashton tree. Its darkened wood and lifeless limbs filled Hazel with sadness. What's to become of me if this ancient tree was unable to find survival? Yet she never contemplated returning home. And months went by before she reached the lights of Alexandria Major. She was covered in filth. Her usual groomed golden locks were now caked with dirt and tangled, and her dress was torn and her face was muddy, yet the smile lit up her face with exquisite beauty. She met someone who took her in. He offered her a meal and a bath and a place to sleep. The house was dusty and dirty, and the furniture had layers of ash, and the air smelled of death, and Hazel was disgusted and disappointed with the way things were. There was not one glimmer of life she had dreamed of. Though in the days to come, many men and women were drawn to her and offered her many luxuries and attention. She treated the people around her with disdain. She complained about everything and talked down to everyone. One day, as she sat on the roof of the home of the one who took her in, she fussed with her clothing, complaining of the drab colors and the questions of recycled clocks and other remains of industry used as clothing. She was hungry for fresh produce and yearned for the sunshine, and she scanned the mountainside with her eyes as she went on, not caring that no one was paying her any attention. The man that had offered her shelter, he stood behind her, sweeping the rooftop, fooling himself into thinking that pigeon poop was going anywhere. And the caged birds squawked. Their feathers flew about in a frenzy as each bird fought for its natural freedom. This is not my existence. Do I not have the right to say what happens to my destiny? How could life be so gross? Where's the beauty? Where's the color? Where's the fun? Hazel carried on, believing the man was listening. What's that? She asked, pointing to the side of the mountain of life nestled in the trees were peaks of the castle's towers, and the pinkish-gray rocks glistened in the single ray of sunshine that hit it. The witches live there, he responded. They say the witches are cursed. No one ever goes up there, and the few who have never returned. Witches, she whispered, with stars in her eyes, and she left at that moment without offering any thanks for the generosity or goodbye. And I awoke with no desire to go on. No desire for food, no desire for life. All I wanted to do was sleep, but dreams of my sister plagued me. So I got up every morning and breathed. I went out, I sat in the sun, and I walked slowly home and remained in the cold, empty house. In my entire life, the fire had never died until now. I tried to do my daily chores. I tried to pick berries, yet I barely ate. I washed my clothes, but I did not bathe. I slept until my body would not sleep any more, and then I lie in my bed and stare at the walls, wishing for sleep to come. I have little will or desire to do anything. I searched to find the desire to live. I never lit a fire. I slept for days at a time, and I wallowed in my self-pity and despair. As I lie on my bed, deep in a trance, near sleep, when the vision of a witch in red comes to me. Liliana whispered in the wind, and the witch in red illuminated from within and reached out, and the light from within the red witch radiated warmth. The surrounding lacked color, and her eyes shone red, and a vision of death and dismemberment overtook my mind's eye. And an arm raised high above her head, the long blade glistened in the ray of the crescent moon, and I looked into my sister's eyes filled with tears. I expect you girls to be good to each other. Look out for one another. Make your mama proud, Mama's voice floated through my dreams. Then the glistening blade slammed into my sister's head until the tip hit the hardwood floor and blood gushed around Hazel's limp body. I jumped from my bed and began to pack as many provisions as I possibly could carry. I put on my brown leather pants and my black leather vest and laced up my warmest leather boots to my knees and wrapped up in the fur shawl I found among my sister's things. With my pack securely protected under the thick fur, I took my bow off the wall and my mother's hand-carved walking stick, and I walked out the door, pausing only to close the front door of my childhood home, the home I had dreamt of never leaving. I do not know what lie ahead, but certain I am never to return. Wiping tears away from my face, I left the sun's rays and ventured out into the day's night. "Goodbye, Mama," I whispered as I walked away. And so that is the end of chapter 25, and now we know how it came to pass that Heidi and Hazel left the cabin in the woods that they've always lived in. And so I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you come back next month for the next chapter so we can find out what happens with Kahai, what happens with Heidi on her adventure to Alexandria, and what happens when Hazel reaches the coven. Again, thank you so much for being here. I love you. Remember, you are valid, you are worthy, you are loved, and I'll see you next time. Bye!